And welcome back. For millions of people around the world, a small booklet of daily readings written by someone they don't even know encourages them in ways they can't often explain. The daily readings written by pastor and Bible teacher Bob Gass were first published more than 17 years ago in booklets called Word for Today. And there's now another edition aimed at a younger age group called Word for You Today. It's also now published in many different languages, but the message remains the same. From our archives, here's Alan Lee talking with author Bob Gass.
You're right, I was born in Belfast in Northern Ireland, but I was raised in church. Every time the doors were open, I was there. And by the time I was 12, I had such a desire to preach. Clearly it was a call of God, but I didn't understand that then. And all my heroes, by the time I was 12, were not movie stars or ball players, but men and women of God. And all I knew was, I want to be one of those. So I committed my life to Christ at 12, and at 13, in our youth group, young men and women were given an opportunity to preach or to speak for the first time. And I delivered my first sermon. It was written on 15 pages, 4 colors underlined, committed to memory for days. And that was my beginning. And from then on, I'd speak in what we called house meetings. We called them cottage meetings in Ireland, open air gatherings, country churches, anywhere. That's how it began.
Is it part of that Irish tradition of speaking and an oral tradition that you know?
Are you trying to politely talk about the gift of the Blarney?
Oh.
No, you don't mean that. Well, of course, Ireland has a huge literary heritage. James Joyce, and you come down the line. So yeah, there would be that genetic strain with the Irish. I'm not sure if that in any sense applies to me, but you were talking about how I really got into ministry. And my dad died, and the government paid her $9 a week, £3 10 shillings, and there were 3 children and my mum, and she tithed. She gave the first dollar out of every 10, which there only was 10, to God. And I'd say, you can't afford to do that. And she'd say, I can't afford not to do that because I need God's help. And God provided for us. I saw checks come through the mail from people I've still never met to this day, but God honored her faith. So I was being taken to church every day. I was seeing a mother who, while grieving the loss of my dad, the love of her life, she took her kids in one hand and God in the other and said, we're going to serve the Lord. And this may be an encouragement to anybody who's watching, who's a single parent, a divorcee, whatever. Don't give up. There are 3. My older brother by 2 years is Neil. My younger sister by 7 years is Ruth. All 3 of us are in the ministry. And my mother's with the Lord. So she was a driving force behind us. And what I do not owe to the redeeming grace of God, I owe to that little woman, 5'2", who decided we're going to serve the Lord. That's the impact.
Because the word for today, which is how we know you best from your written work and from hearing you on the radio, a lot of what you say is so grounded in real life and in common sense and in real families and real problems. I suspect that comes from your mum as well.
Well, a lot of it, of course. Let's face it, by the time we are 12, all of us, we have learned 75% of everything we'll ever know, is what the educators say. So your formative years. And we just had to trust God at every point, and there was no finesse or pretense. You just trusted God every day. Yeah, to me, when I write the word for today, much of what you read, I have lived. I have my own areas where I've struggled and failed and had to have God pick me up. So I know there's a lot of people out there battling a sense of failure, and I need to tell them God will forgive you. He's the God of second chances and third ones if you need them. He'll pick you up when you. God will never give up on you, so don't you give up on yourself.
The conference we're at is looking at the future of broadcasting, the future of Christians in broadcasting. It's been very, very mind expanding. There's just been so much information. It's such a changing business. I mean, you've been in the business so long, and yet you've kept up with it. Do you sometimes think, what next?
Yeah, this conference, man, what an opportunity. I got an idea. Let's raise up a generation of bloggers who blog for Jesus. Internet evangelists. If the world can use it, let's get Christians who just are happy to start talking. In 10 years, there'll be no medium wave or AM. FM might not even be a vehicle. It's all going to go on the digital. It's going to go on the web-based. And but if we don't get in sync with this, Jesus said one day a very interesting thing. He said the children of darkness are wiser in their generation than the children of light. And he simply meant the children of darkness know how to operate by principles that work and get somewhere, whereas sometimes Christians can be what I call saved, sanctified, and stuck, and they're not going anywhere. And you're right, the challenge is, let's raise up an army of committed to Christ kids who will invade that internet and utilize everything Google's got going and utilize it for the kingdom of God.
Exciting times.
Exciting times.